So let's talk about how to convert this to code. So you have done all of this on paper, which again, if you do this, you are very far along, but now you want to convert this to code. So let's look at the answers that they have, and you'll notice that they follow exactly the same steps that we went through on here on paper. And so this is where like coding comes in and can help you. So let's go down. So let's ignore all of this. This is some like data manipulation stuff. It's not OSM. But here's where the OSM starts. So you create a model. So this line will be basically similar for every single one. But the first thing they've done here is they've defined the decision variables. So you'll notice that this line right here is doing exactly what we talked about here. So it's for each section, for each advertiser, it's creating a decision variable and storing those 15 decision variables in a matrix called ads allocated. Here I would refer to the video of advars versus advar without an S. This was pretty helpful in understanding this part. But step one is done here. Step two of defining objective is this part. So again, like their mathematical annotation is here, which we have also. The quick sum here is basically the code version of this part of the math. Here I would refer to the video of quick sum versus for loop. I personally like for loops better, but quick sums are also a very good way of doing it. So you can see that video and see what you like better. So now that they have revenues, then, well, they want to say we want to maximize these revenues, and so they maximize it in this line, and that refers to this part of the mathematical annotation that we have here. So step two is define objective. In code, also step two is define objective. And step three, as you would have it, is constraints, which is constraints. So this constraint that we worked with, which at least 12,000 views for advisors Sausalito, that's actually done here. And many other constraints are done over here, as you can see, but like let's just take a look at the one that we talked about. So what they're saying is that the sum of the various ads that are shown should be equal to the minimum page views. So this is a bit more mathy than what we have, because here we have a number, but here they have a variable and that's because in their thing, each company has an at least. So they're taking care of all of these at the same time. So instead of this being 12,000, this would be the company's minimum. So if we go here, you see it's page min views A, sub A, right? Because each company, each advertiser has a different number. So in the min page views, what they do is they add a constraint, or they add constraints, well, 5 different times because it's in a for loop, but they add a constraint, and the quick sum here is the same as this part, and the right side of the greater than or equal to is similar to this part. In this case, it's 12,000 for us, but in this case, the first row of this matrix would be 12,000, and there'd be 5 rows in this. And they call this constraint min page views. Well, once you've done the constraints that we've done here, you basically just run the model, and you write the model and run it, and that's it. So if you've done the paper part, then you convert it to code, and then you run the model, and you're actually done with the OSM problem. It's actually pretty simplistic once you understand what you're doing. And a good way to check, so like let's say you go through the code and you've made mistakes, a really good way that I like to check is I write it and then I open it. And what you'll see is you can print what you open, and you'll see this big output here. So what is this big output here? Let's just take a look at the lines here. So this is saying that this model needs to maximize this, subject to all of these constraints. So each line is a different constraint. So this is one constraint, this is one constraint. So let's go through this real quickly. It's saying maximize this entire equation. So if you remember in here, we had this sum, right, where we had said that if you would sum this entire thing, well, if you wrote this out of this plus 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 this is what it would look like. Because what they're saying is the variable of news and advisor Sausalito, that's this variable, is this variable, times 0.04, which we have here, right, times 0.1. So I think their 0.1 comes, where does their 0.1 come? Oh, I guess it doesn't matter because it's being multiplied by the entire thing. So 0.1 is not inconsequential because you're just trying to maximize. So that's why they don't have the 0.1. But anyway, so it's this plus this comes up in the second line, which is 0.03 times the second decision variable, which is news bold cruises over here, plus 0.03 times news cool tickets. So news cool tickets, this decision variable. So you see this equation. So on paper, we understand what the equation should look like, right? So if you've done something wrong in your coding, this equation right here will be wrong. So you can take a look at what comes out in this printout and figure out where you've gone wrong. So let's say your coefficients are not matching up, then you've probably done something wrong in your matrix math above. Or let's say this is only one line, or it's only this is showing up, or only 3 of these are showing up, or 5 of these are showing up. Then you know you've done something wrong in your for loops, for example. If this section is correct, that means that your code version of the defined objective is correct, so great. Then we look at the constraints section, right? These are all the different constraints. So let's find the constraints for min page views at advisor Salcedo. There we go. So this is the constraint that we had right here. So again, it's the same thing, right? Which is news and AS plus travel AS plus sports AS. These 3 decision variables, right? Which we had over here, then I had to cross it out. I guess I could have left it. But the sum of these 3 has to be greater than or equal to 12,000. And again, if this equation looks wrong for you, then you've done something incorrect in the coding of this specific constraint. So if this is wrong, you would go back up and go to this part and figure out what you've done incorrectly. So I like to use the output here to figure out if I've converted my math properly to code. Because this right here is exactly this, except everything is listed out. Right? This is the shorthand mathematical version. This is the entire actual equations. And to get from here to here, you have to write this code here. So you can check using that. I hope this was helpful again.